Good afternoon. Could I have everybody's attention, please? First of all, thank you all for coming out on this important day for our university and our campus community. This is not only an issue for our faculty and not only an issue for our students and an issue for our staff and our alumni, but it's an issue that all of California should sit up and take notice. I'd like to especially thank the California Faculty Association, CFA, for providing the food, and the California State University Employees Union for supplying food and drinks for everybody. Thank you all, CFA and Staff Union. I will MC this event today, so I've got to keep us on a pretty tight timeline. I know many of you have time schedules you have to abide by. We're going to try to get in and out of here in about an hour. And each person there's a reason each person is on the platform. They want to express their views on this important and very important day for not only our institution, but throughout the CSU and all of education in the state of California. I'd also like to send greetings from Mayor Bob Foster, who is going to join us today. Mayor Foster is actually meeting with the governor in Sacramento, and we felt that perhaps it's better to send a message in person while he's in Sacramento than to join us today on this platform. But Mayor Foster, a former CSU trustee, also sends his warm regards. I know Congresswoman Laura Richardson's staff is here, Betty Carnett, Warren Furutani. We'd like to thank all of the assembly members who have sent their staffs to join us today. Also like to our city council member, of which we're in his district, is Gary DeLong. City council member Gary DeLong sends his support and continued support throughout this process. This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning for our campus. We have 6 months, 4 to 6 months of budget battles in Sacramento. And this more or less kicks off what I believe you too will feel as an important part of our agenda, and that's our agenda as a campus and our agenda as a community. This is a call to action. It's a call to action for our institution. We are here also to let our legislators and to let the governor know that, you know, this issue is about social choices. Social choices. And that's what are going to be made in Sacramento in the next 4 to 6 months. And as Californians, we need to ask the right social questions and choices. Should we as Californians choose to incarcerate one more prisoner when we should send 6 talented students to the CSU or the beach for the same price? Should we as Californians continue pouring vast amounts of public revenues into an out-of-control healthcare system at the expense of our children, our students, and our education system? Should we as Californians allow the CSU to be cut 10% when we already know that we are not a state expenditure, but we are the best investment that this state could make on the future of California? Should we as Californians allow an outdated tax system to go unchanged without even testing the waters and new options for potential new revenue streams that would more adequately reflect the knowledge-based service economy that California has today? All of these are our questions that we need to make sure that our legislators and our governor understand, and understand very well. Today you will be asked to help in a variety of different ways, and we'll conclude with how you can help, but I'll give you 5 key areas. First, sign the alliance. The CSU is the solution. The alliance petition to the governor. Make sure your names and voices are heard. Secondly, sign the alliance that you want to help. Lend your support, lend your volunteerism, lend your friends, your support any way possible to join us in Sacramento and to join us in making sure that this message does not end today, but starts today. Write a letter to your local newspapers, editorial staffs, and others, while also send messages. It is very important. We have 10 computers back there. We want you to send your messages to our state assembly members, our state senators. Let them know that it does matter and that you are indeed an investment on the state of California and for the state of California. The decisions that will be made in the next 4 to 6 months will impact each and every one of us. We want them to know that we do not think that we are an expenditure. We are the greatest investment in this state. Last year alone, California State University graduated 90,000 graduates and put them into the California economy. This university alone graduated 8,200. If the state prioritizes education as they say they do, then why then do you cut your schools, your community colleges, and your universities? I think that if the state wants more engineers, more nurses, more school teachers, more accountants, more MBAs, the last thing they should be doing is cutting their universities, community colleges, and educational institutions. The outcome will be right in front of them. We'll have 10% less engineers, 10% less nurses, 10% less college graduates, at a time when even the Business Roundtable of California stated that in the next 15 years, we will need 1.3 million new additional baccalaureate degrees in the California economy, 250,000 new master's degrees, and 50,000 new doctoral degrees. That's why this issue is not just our issue alone. This is California's issue. This is Long Beach's issue. This is all an issue that California must unite to make sure that our legislators have the authority and the power to make the best decisions possible to help our students and our children. At this time, I'd like two very important individuals to come forth representing CFA and our university. Dr. Terry Yamada, Professor of Communication Literature in the Department of Communication or Comparative World Literature and Classics, and Elizabeth Hoffman, lecturer in the English Department and lecturer project leader at the Faculty Center for Professional Development. Elizabeth also has been traveling around the state to attend many of our own rallies like this throughout the state, and we're here to tell you that today Cal State Long Beach is a part of a family of 450,000 voices that need to hit Sacramento and hit Sacramento hard. So at this time, Dr. Hoffman, Dr. Yamada.
Thank you, President Alexander, and thank you for your leadership on this. And thank you, everyone, for being here today. It's great to see so many students and staff and faculty and members of the community showing their commitment to Cal State Long Beach and their concern about the future of the CSU. We're all part of this alliance for the CSU. And as President Alexander said, it's been attracting thousands of people at events just like this at CSU campuses across the state. And the momentum is snowballing, as you can see by the crowd here today. The message of the Alliance is on the button. The CSU is the solution. CSU is the solution to California's economic crisis because our graduates produce those graduates that are the backbone of the state's workforce and the future economic development. And as a faculty member and as a parent of 2 CSU graduates, I know that every student who gets to the CSU is already a success story. But that success can be derailed if students can't get the classes they need and don't have the faculty and staff they need to help them graduate. And that success is denied to students who want to come to the CSU but are denied access because of budget cuts. The proposed cuts to the CSU budget would be devastating to every campus and to every student. Students, think of the classes you took this semester and then think of them doubled or tripled in size. Think of the lines you stood in this semester and think of them doubled or tripled in size. Think of the schedules the students juggle and how much harder that would be if there were fewer sections of courses offered. Think of the fee increases and how many more hours students would have to work and how many more loans they would have to take out to meet those increases. And think of the instructor who spent time helping you this semester. Unless we act, that instructor may not be back to help you again. So our fight against the budget cuts is really important. And our fight against the budget cuts is doable. Our message is getting out there. It's making a difference in Sacramento. We stopped $40 million in cuts to the CSU last summer. And working together, the Alliance for the CSU, we can do it again. Now I'd like to turn this over to Dr. Terry Yamada, who will talk to us about how to translate our commitment to the CSU into action to save the CSU. Thank you.
Welcome. On every chair, you'll find a flyer called 10 Things You Can Do Now to Help Stop the Cuts to the CSU. Please take that out and look at it. It's an action sheet for further activities to help in the situation. Everyone also has been given an alliance card. These are on all the chairs, and people are walking around, volunteers are walking around with these alliance cards. Please take them out now. There are pens on the chairs, and you can start filling them out at this point. First, be sure to fill out the alliance card. At the end, hand it to volunteers. They're going to have green boxes. This card shows that you are willing to help save the CSU by taking further action, such as emailing certain elected representatives who need to hear from you, who will need your encouragement to do the right thing as they vote on the budget in Sacramento. Half of this alliance card is for you to keep. Take it home to your parents, show it to your colleagues at work and your place of worship. Talk about the importance of the CSU for the economic future of California. Get them involved as part of this alliance. So, see you later on in the program to talk about this some more. Thanks.
At this time, because of her schedule, I would like Dr. Suja Lowenthal to come forward. She's our city council member and is very concerned about the city, certainly the city of Long Beach, but also she's a part of our campus family now. She's her first semester this semester, and we're glad to have her as part of our campus family. City council member Suja Lowenthal.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate being invited to this event because I believe what we're talking about is the most important issue facing California today. Some may wonder why a city council member would be concerned about education funding, but it's not just my years in our school district that have made me sensitive to education issues. We in city government know that providing our youth with a good education is the most important investment we can make in our future. We have a great city, a great school district, and a great university. Not one of those three, not a single one, can exist without the other two. Education for me, like for so many of us, is a very personal issue because my son just began his formal education and he'll be in our schools for the next 20 years or so, longer if I have anything to do with it. He and all the millions of children like him in this state deserve a good education. In fact, they deserve a fantastic education. And we all need them to have a good education in order to have a future in which we all can flourish. Every Monday, I volunteer at my son's school, and when I see Avi and his classmates, I can't help but think back to when my own education began, when I was in a very poor neighborhood in southern India, where very few people around me had an education, and most in my neighborhood would not have had a chance to have that opportunity. My parents immigrated here and made tremendous sacrifices to give me opportunities I would not have had I remained in India. Words cannot express how grateful I am to them and for the decisions that they've made, because education, as you can only imagine, has opened more doors for me than I ever dreamed possible. I am sure everyone here has experienced that. We never knew when we started our education all we would learn and where it would possibly take us. And that's because schools are all about preparing for tomorrow. And yes, we have a budget crisis, and that's what we're here to talk about today. But we need to get our elected representatives to understand that forfeiting our prospects for a happy tomorrow in order to balance the budget today is short-sighted at best and self-destructive at worst. That's the basic problem. That is the basic problem with the governor's proposal for deep cuts in school funding. It doesn't give us hope for a better tomorrow. In fact, it all but guarantees a worse tomorrow. As policymakers, we have a plan for better tomorrows, and that means adequately funding education. There simply is no other option. Schools are very, very special places. When I look at fire stations or police stations, I think those are giving us a better, safer life today, and that's important. But when I look at schools, I think those are giving us better life tomorrow. A school is a building with the future inside, and nothing is more precious than our future. But we can't take the future for granted. If we want progress to occur, we have to invest in our future by educating our young people so that they have the opportunity to lead very happy and very productive lives. Something tremendously magical happens inside our schools. Kids enter school without the advantages in life we wish they could have, but they leave schools with all the opportunities in life that a good education and a democratic society can offer. Education and opportunity are synonymous in our country, mainly because of our public education system. If we don't have adequate funding for education, America could lose its reputation as being the land of opportunity. It's even conceivable that in the future, people in America will be immigrating to other countries to get a good education for their children and that opportunity that it would provide. It's hard to imagine that today, and it seems impossible, but it really, really is not. The United States has not been around for a very long time, as all of you know. I came from a country and a continent where history goes back thousands of years, not just a couple of hundred. In Asia, many still look to the United States as an experiment that has yet to prove it can last. Many of us that have spent time in other countries know what we have in the United States is very special. But we also know that education is the cornerstone of our democracy. Without it, we will not have students and citizens who can take part in informed discussions on the issues facing our society and vote knowledgeably, and that is so important. The proposed funding cuts threaten to decimate education as we know it, as we count on it, and we can't let that happen. Educating our youth is the most important thing we can do to guarantee a good quality of life in our future and to ensure that our democratic form of government will endure. Education is an investment in our future, and we can't put that off. We can't put that investment off for a couple of years because our students can't wait for our economy to get better so we can afford to give them a good education. That simply is not an option. They need a good education today, and we need them to have it. And speaking of government, let me share with you what I've learned about politics these past few years. And while there are many I consider much wiser than myself, there are some very basic principles I've managed to pick up. One of them is that our elected representatives are influenced by the concerns of their constituents. To put it bluntly, our elected representatives need to hear from us constituents, that we are very upset about the potential funding cuts facing education. It is a big mistake to assume others will carry the message for you, because if our elected officials are just hearing from the same lobbyists they always hear from on this issue, they will not be persuaded as if they hear from you students, teachers, parents, and concerned community members. Believe me, they're hearing from everyone else, from all the special interests that are not advocating for education. No one can advocate for education the way we can. It is very difficult for our electeds to know our concerns and keep them in the forefront of their minds while they are being barraged by arguments in favor of cutting education budget, so more resources are available for other priorities. And believe me, that is exactly what they argue. They argue that there are other priorities greater than education, and you and I know that's not true. So if you are concerned about the proposed cuts in funding for education, please do what President Alexander and others before me have asked you to do. It is important to call, to write, to email all of your elected officials, and you have the opportunity to do that today. And I hope our message is clear, that we need to preserve education funding, not just university funding, not just K-12 funding, all education funding. Our schools need a great university to feed into. Our university needs great schools to prepare its students. If it's going to be successful, that's exactly what has to happen. So for me, the message I'm giving to our representatives is, don't cut education funding. If education funding is cut, we are putting our future at risk, and we just can't do that. There is no option for that. We just cannot do that, and you have to let them know it's not an option. Thank you.
As you know, our CSU trustees are on the front line of this issue, and we're very fortunate to have one right with us who's part of our family. Most of you know Professor Craig Smith. He's also a chair. Professor Smith won the Faculty of the Year Award, Faculty Member of the Year Award last year, but also sits as the faculty representative on the California State University's trustees. This time, please welcome Professor Craig Smith. Craig.
Thank you. I'm here representing the Board of Trustees, and if there's one good thing that's come out of this crisis that we face is that we've united the Board of Trustees with the California Faculty Association, with the California Student Association, with all of our unions and our staff to work together to get our system saved from cuts that are going to be made in Sacramento. I have in my hand a press release from the governor's office in which the governor says everything is on the table. Well, I pledge to you the next time I talk to my friend, Arnold Schwarzenegger, to tell him to please take education off that table. It does not belong there. I pledge to the students to work as hard as I can to protect you from fee increases. The increases that you've faced over time are often taken out of context. People don't understand that students have had raised parking fees. They've had raised textbook costs. They've had to deal with course fees that aren't part of the regular fees. They are swimming in taxes, which we call fees, and that should not be allowed to continue. And I pledge to work on your behalf to make sure that we sustain the excellence of this system by making it accessible to all of the students who are qualified in this state. To my friends in the administration, as a member of the Board of Trustees, I hope to protect the 23 campus federation that we are a part of. Whether you're majoring in marine biology at Humboldt or you're in the College of Education in San Diego, you are part of a 23 campus constellation that's one of the finest in the world. To cut its budget would be tragic, and I pledge to try to prevent that. To my colleagues on the faculty, my dear friends on the faculty, and I am your faculty trustee, I'm going to continue to work for comparable pay with our cohort institutions. No faculty at cohort institutions across this nation has the workload that we have and are paid less than we are. That has got to change, and you don't change that by cutting education. So I pledge again to get education taken off the table. Simply put, as the largest university in the United States, with 23 campuses, we are a university of the faculty, by the administration, for the students, and I pledge it shall not perish from this state.
No university can function without a wonderful staff, and I think we've got the best darn staff in the United States right here on this university campus. In Sacramento, they question us about accountability, and in Washington, they question us about accountability. I'll stack our numbers up with anybody on efficiency and the productivity of a university and the outcomes, and that's some of the fights that we're in both places. Our university achieves more and does more for so many, and it is because of our great faculty, but just as effectively because of our great staff. At this time, I'd like Richard Duarte, Chapter President of the CSUEU, to come forward with his comments. Richard.
Thank you, President Alexander. Thank you all for coming today to this important event. I am privileged and honored to stand here today not only representing the university staff, but I am also here as a parent. My daughter is graduating this May as an aerospace engineer, and she has accepted an offer for one of the best companies in the aerospace industry. Without this university, she would not have had the opportunity as a Hispanic and as a woman. Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger has proposed a $386 million cut to the California State University system. These cuts will be detrimental to the fundamental purpose of the university. Our job is to produce professionals who return value to the state's economy. The CSU must not be considered as an expense item. The CSU is an investment. It is an investment and the culture of California, and the future of California, and in the life of California. California State University campuses generates more than 200,000 jobs, and each year the system graduates on approximately 90,000 new professionals. In the long run, CSU is a vital part of the state's economy solution. We all ask our children to do their very best in school, to work hard and to prepare for college. Now, with these budget cuts, 10,000 young men and women, despite their qualifications and efforts, will find the CSU doors closed to them. And at Cal State Long Beach, we have to deny 1,300 students admission to the university. This is devastating. Imagine for a moment telling a young man or woman on the threshold of new life that no matter how hard he or she works, that the doors to higher education and to better future have been already closed. Therefore, this affects all of us. Especially hard hit will be Latinos, African Americans, Native Americans, and first generation students who, without the state university, will be less likely to obtain a college education. So, are we going to stand by passively and do nothing about it? Let's hope not. On behalf of the California State University Employees Union, Chapter 315, I applaud President Alexander for his effort and willingness to embrace all segments of our campus community. All of us here in Cal State Long Beach, from the employees who maintain the restrooms, the buildings, and the campus labs, to the nurses and the Student Health Center, from the staff and enrollment services, to the folks in the library, to the department support staff, to the employees in housing, to the lab technicians, and every hard-working employee across this campus. All of us are united in supporting these efforts and in the belief that every deserving student should be allowed a college education. Please join the Alliance in our unprecedented effort to stop the cuts. For the very first time, we are telling the world that we are not going to sit passively, waiting for the red pen to eliminate opportunities of higher education for future generations. Please join us by signing a commitment card. We all should sign a commitment card. Students, our parents, everyone. You can send a letter, you can send an email, you can make a phone call to an elected state legislator. Remember one thing, you are not only a faculty or a staff or a parent or a student, you are a constituent, and that is your power. Thank you.
Representing our academic professionals of California, our steward, Chief Steward, Duan Jackson. Duan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. I'm very pleased to stand before you representing the academic professionals of California. I'm going to echo much of what has already been said today, but I would also like to share with you just how much APC is in support of the CSU Alliance. I think we all understand how serious the situation is. I think it's important for us today to focus on the strength, we will bring to bear if all of us, administration, students, staff, faculty, unions, parents, and the community stand together and work to fight and to protect the CSU budget. APC's commitment to student success starts when counselors visit junior high schools and high schools to encourage young students to attend college, and it does not end until they walk across that stage during their commencement ceremony. Cuts to the budget would have a devastating impact on student access as well as student success. You have already heard that 10,000 qualified students will not be able to attend the CSU campus, and this will have a negative impact on California's human infrastructure. Additionally, cuts to the budget will fall hardest on underrepresented and underserved communities. One of APC's top priorities is to make sure that students have access to quality higher education and to enough faculty and staff to provide these services for them. This has never been more important than now, given the role that CSU plays in preparing today's workforce. Less access to the CSU will negatively impact the industries and the state's economy. The CSU Alliance can stand together because on this we can all agree that to protect the CSU budget is to protect California's future. Again, I want to thank you for attending today's rally. Please sign a card and please get involved today. And thank you so much for having me.
How many students do we have out here? All right, how about the students for quality education? Where are you guys? All right, thank you guys for all your help. You guys are truly the reason why we're here from start to finish. We wouldn't have a university without students. And at this time, I'd like to introduce to you two of your ASI officers, your president, Mark Andrews, and your treasurer of ASI, Shalina McClinton.
You know, we live in a great state, don't we? You can wake up in the morning, go surfing, and at the end of the day, you can go snowboarding in the mountains. We have 5 Major League Baseball teams that are just about to start the season. And while the rest of the country is freezing, we get weather like this. But I think the best thing about California is that anyone from any background has the opportunity to excel in any career that they choose. This is the California dream. And our public higher education system is the means to achieving that dream. But I'm sad to say, with these dramatic cuts to the CSU, this California dream is quickly becoming a nightmare. We are continuing to feel the effects of the past budget cuts of $522 million that took place between 2002 and 2005. And once again, it seems our legislators are willing to sacrifice our education. The newly proposed budget will restrict the CSU from being able to serve those qualified, essentially taking away the dream of 10,000 potential students. These are the students who would later be graduating to become active contributors to our economy. Every year, the CSU produces nearly 90,000 graduates to enter into the workforce. By restricting access to the CSU system, there will be fewer opportunities to prepare these potential contributors. In addition, we supply the majority of employees in key industries such as nursing, teaching, agriculture, business, public administration, and technology. By not accepting students into the CSU system, their chances of ever making it to the workforce are considerably less than if they were given this opportunity. Being as large and diverse as the CSU is, we pride ourselves in being affordable. And these budget cuts will negatively impact the underserved communities in our state. As students today, we need to stand up for the students of tomorrow by showing our opposition to this budget. If we don't do something now, who will and when? Every one of us has a voice, and now is the time to make some noise. Now is the time to protect the California dream. Thank you. Go Beach.
Good afternoon, everyone. As the budget cuts and fee increases take center stage in the education debate, I begin to wonder, when did education become a luxury? Growing up, I was constantly told that you are in control of your education, and no one can take that away from you. But today, California legislators are taking education out of the grasp of many deserving students. My 16-year-old cousin hopes of one day to attend college, but I can't help but wonder if, with the proposed budgets, she will have the opportunity to make it. As much as I want her to expand her horizons and exceed her own expectations, the opportunity is being taken away from her and her classmates the closer we get to this proposed budget. If this budget becomes a reality, college students, potential college students, and the rest of California will feel the repercussions. But by taking away from college students, they are taking away from the future of our state and our country. Education is an investment for all our futures, and our California legislators should be willing to make that investment. The fact is, for every $1 the state invests in the CSU, $4.41 is generated in economic activity. Investing in the CSU isn't just investing in students, but also investing in California. By ignoring these beneficial investments, these legislators are ignoring California's future. Living in the economy we are in, it is understandable that changes and cuts will have to be made, but education should be held as a top priority. As citizens, we should have the right to affordable housing, food, and education. What is going to be taken away from us next? The CSU system has made incredible progress reaching minority students. California is known as an area thriving with diversity, and our schools should reflect that. California's goal should be to improve the education of all students. Here at CSULB, we've established a diverse community of students and faculty that have come together to make a unique and rewarding college experience. An experience that will be unattainable with these budget cuts. We ask the students, faculty, staff to stand together and oppose the budget cuts as one. It is going to affect us all, and in order to make a difference, we must cry out in one voice of protest. Go Beach.
Students, you have a different role to play also. I'd like to reiterate this point. Your parents matter, and in fact, you've got reach that we don't have right here on campus among our faculty and staff. Your reach is all over the state of California. So when you're writing and when you get your parents involved, because believe me, your parents feel directly involved in this issue, whether it's a fee issue, whether it's a course issue, whether it's a time to degree issue, your parents are very much involved in your education at Cal State Long Beach. Get them involved. They know their legislators. They are close to the legislators, not just in this part of the state, but all over the state of California. So we not only need you to play a role in this, but we need to get your parents on board. Your parents can be a vital asset in this fight in Sacramento to protect what they have put such great weight and value in, which is a Cal State Long Beach degree and a Cal State University degree. At this time, I'd also like to introduce to you Dr. Felton Williams. Felton's been an educator for 30 years, and he's currently president of the Long Beach Unified School Board here in Long Beach. The day we fight for $1 of adequate funding so that we can take that dollar away from a kindergarten child is the day California has turned a corner that we may never be able to return to. The schools are a vital part of us, and we are indeed a vital part of the public schools. And as a saying in Illinois once went, we as students of the current, of today and of the future send greetings to the students of the past. And today we are sending our greetings and letting our students know in the K-12 sector throughout California that we're a part of them, and they are indeed a very big part of this fight with us. So Dr. Felton Williams.
Good afternoon. I appreciate Dr. Alexander's invitation to include our district in this event. And it's good coming back. I spent a number of years here as a student and as a staff member, so I have very fond memories of coming back. And even standing out here, as many of you are today, listening to events of this kind. We see our district and the university as being two entities involved in a great relationship that exists to serve the educational needs of our community. I'm here representing what I believe is the best school district in the United States. And I'm proud to say that I'm not the only one who believes that. Long Beach Unified has been named one of the best urban school districts by the Eli Broad Foundation, and has received innumerable awards because, in fact, we are the best. Just last week, 2 of our elementary schools, Signal Hill and Tucker, earned the National Excellence in Urban Education Award. Between 2003 and 2007, Long Beach Unified saw a 65% increase in advanced placement enrollments, with the highest gains among African Americans and Latinos. That led to more of our kids going to college. The number of students from Long Beach Unified that gained admission to Cal State Long Beach jumped by 46% during this time period. But I'm here today because the good things we do for our kids are threatened by the cuts in education funding the governor has proposed. The great relationship we have with the university is like a marriage, and like any good marriage, it does take work. And the work we have in front of us today is to confront the proposed budget cuts that threaten to devastate public education in California. Anyone who reads the newspapers know school districts up and down the state are sending out pink slips to tens of thousands of hardworking, dedicated teachers and school employees. The governor says we don't have a revenue problem. We have an expenditure problem. The facts say otherwise. Contrary to what the governor says, the education and budget in California is not facing a spending problem. We are facing a priorities problem. In the last 10 years, revenue by the state grew by 106%, but K-14 expenditures grew only by 69%. Education expenses have been growing more slowly than the rest of the budget. If the state had managed to restrain the growth in the non-education part of the budget, like they have minimized expenditures for education, we would not have a state budget crisis. It is the non-education side of the state budget that is causing the budget crisis. But in order to deal with a problem that education did not create, the governor proposes cutting education more than the rest of the budget. Education in grades K-14 is 40% of the state budget, but the governor has proposed that education bear 60% of the actual cuts, and that's not fair. California is the state with the largest economy in our nation, but California has been close to the bottom of the nation in how much we spend on our students. California spends nearly $1,900 per pupil less than the national average, $5,100 per pupil less than New Jersey, $4,000 less than Wyoming, and even Louisiana spends more on education than we do. A lot more. If Long Beach School District had even Louisiana's level of funding, we would have an additional $130 million every year. If we had New Jersey's level of funding, we would have over $400 million every year. That's how poorly public schools are funded in California, and that is not fair to our students. As it is, only 3 states spend less on education than California: Arizona, Utah, and Idaho. If the governor's cuts are implemented, we will literally be competing with the poorest states in the nation for the dubious distinction of being the worst state in the United States for education funding. And it makes no sense. If we want a strong economy that can compete with the rest of the world, we must invest in education. While I understand that the governor and the legislature have tough decisions to make, these cuts to education will increase class sizes and leave our schools with fewer resources just when we are asking more of them than ever before. The result will be that students unlucky enough to grow up in California during these times will be forever denied the opportunity for the education they deserve, and that's not right. Our students deserve a quality education, and our state and our nation need them to have a quality education. Year after year, thousands upon thousands of students in our community are getting the educational opportunities that they deserve. But rather than opening the doors to success for more young people, Sacramento threatens to shut them out. In Long Beach, our schools have been performing miracles, but the governor's proposed budget cuts would put us in an impossible position where many of our students, particularly the disadvantaged students, would not get the quality education they need and deserve. That's not fair to our students, and it's not fair to the future of our state and our nation. Please make your voices heard in Sacramento. We need your help to make our governor and legislature understand that cutting education funding is cutting our hope for a healthy and prosperous future. Thank you all very much.
At this time, representing our Academic Senate is the Chair of our Academic Senate and Professor of Marketing in the College of Business Administration, Praveen Soni. He has a resolution to read.
Thank you, President Alexander. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to read to you the resolution that was discussed yesterday at the Executive Committee of the Academic Senate. It will be presented to the Academic Senate tomorrow at its meeting, and hopefully it will be approved unanimously. Whereas the CSU is the economic engine for the state of California, returning $4.41 for every dollar invested in it, providing knowledge-based citizens for the state workforce, and generating more than 200,000 jobs. And whereas the state of California is facing a budget deficit of about $15 billion for the year ending June 2009, and whereas to balance the state budget, the CSU budget has been cut by $313 million for the 2008-2009 year, and whereas the budget cut will result in a denial of access to the CSU to approximately 10,000 qualified California students, about 1,000 in CSULB, many of whom are low-income, first-generation, and from underserved populations of the state of California. And whereas the budget cut will result in a reduction of educational quality and support, since the CSU will be unable to hire enough faculty and staff to effectively teach and serve the students. And, I'm getting there, whereas the budget cut will result in a reduction in retention and graduation rates and increased time to graduation, since currently enrolled students will not be able to obtain the courses and classes they need to graduate in a timely manner, and whereas the combined negative effect of lack of access, reduction in educational quality, and long-term reduction in graduation rates will be felt by key industries in the state of California, such as nursing, education, engineering, public administration, and criminal justice, which depend upon the CSU for a majority of their workforce. And whereas due to this combined negative effect, in the long term, California will not be able to provide key services to its population, and the state of California will be unable to obtain the same high return on investment from the CSU as it has enjoyed in the past, resulting in economic stagnation and further exacerbating the bleak revenue outlook for the state. Be it therefore resolved that the Academic Senate of California State University, Long Beach, urges and encourages the university community to collaborate both at the local and state levels to convince legislators and decision makers to restore funding to the CSU for the benefit of the citizens of the state of California. So, go beach to Sacramento and don't accept hasta la vista, baby. Thank you.
We have one more speaker, and I'd like Nina DeLevon to please come forward from the CSU Quality for Education. CSU is the solution. I'd also like Mark and Shalina, if they would join me on the stage here, please.
Thank you, President Alexander. Good afternoon, everybody. I am a member of the CSU Students for Quality Education Long Beach chapter, a coalition of students that came together to keep the founding mission of the CSU, which is to provide access, affordability, and quality education. I thank all the students today and volunteers for coming out to support this cause. We also want to give our professors, faculty, and administration a hand of applause for helping us in this fight. Go ahead. Our fight is to restore $386 million back into our system. As a third-year pre-med student attaining a degree in kinesiology science and a minor in theater, I am worried about the impacts these cuts will have on my graduation, financial aid, and fees. In the past, we have experienced fee hikes, decrease in class availability, increase in class sizes, and increase in faculty workload. Fees has gone up 94% for undergraduates and 127% for graduate students since 2002. Students, all of these things impact when we will graduate and in the quality of our graduation and education here in Cal State Long Beach. According to the CSU, it takes an average of 6 years to attain your bachelor's degree in the system. I don't want to be here for 6 more years. I have 5 more years of schooling after I get my bachelor's. I want to be out there in the workforce and start my career. This budget will make it more difficult for students to graduate on time. In addition, the CSU is forced to deny access to 10,000 incoming freshmen. And aside from that, the governor plans to eliminate Cal Grant B to all incoming freshmen also. Not only will it affect students and faculty, it will also impact the future of California. This budget cut would undermine California's economy. Cuts would weaken the state's revenue-creating potential as the state adds a smaller number of college students to its human infrastructure. The CSU produces the backbone of California's workforce. It generates 80% of California teachers, 51% of California engineers, 64% of California nurses, 89% of criminal justice professionals, and 87% of California social workers. Once again, for every dollar that is given to the CSU, $4.41 is given back to the state. The CSU is the solution. We all now know that we are the solution to California's troubled economy. Students, we need to get involved. Take this message home, tell your community, tell your parents. What you can do? Please take an Alliance card and sign it, approach one of the students wearing red, and go ahead and give them your filled out card. Tell a friend and ask them to support us. Once again, the CSU is the solution. Thank you, and look for us to get involved. CSU Students for College Education. And once again, thank you to the faculty, staff, and administration. Everybody have a good day. Thank you so much.
I'd like to thank all of you for coming out, and as I mentioned before, this is just the beginning. It's the beginning of something. Dr. Williams mentioned what was going on in public schools. California has fallen to the bottom of the nation in what its funding for public schools has gone in the last 20 years. Well, in higher education, we've gone from 11th 20 years ago to 22nd in the nation. We're sliding towards mediocrity at best. And this indeed is a challenge for us. And if we've had enough, we need to let our voices be heard. And students and others, if you don't think your voice is going to be heard, it won't. We need to make our voices heard, and we're in a budget process here, in a budget battle that's going to take 4 to 6 months. The more we yell, the more noise we make, the more we're heard as a university, and the more support we're going to get from everybody. So I'd like to thank all of you and look forward to working with each and every one of you. And I'd like to thank all of the supporters, the sponsors, Students for Quality Education, CFA, our staff union, and many of the others who made this event possible, Elena Macias, Tony Barone. Thank you all, and I look forward to working with you to make sure that California understands the true difference between what a state investment is and what a state expenditure is. And go Beach.